to us today is, are our relationships with God and with each other based on merit or on mercy? The parables of the lost sheep and the lost coin are intended for the Pharisees and scribes, and those of us along with the Pharisees and scribes who consider ourselves righteous. Righteous to the formulaic laws written then and now, and the laws self-imposed by our own piety. Any first century Pharisee that was asked if they were righteous would have said, of course. They follow the law of Moses to the letter and follow the traditions that grew up around the law. Traditions that grew like briars grow in a rose bush. They just do not understand what Jesus meant when he said that there is more rejoicing by God and in heaven over the return of a sinner. More rejoicing in God by God and in heaven over the return and the acceptance of an outcast, someone lost and then found. More joy than of one who considers themselves to be righteous. But what does righteous mean? Righteous means to do right, to love kindness, and walk humbly with God. It means to have love for the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and to have love for your neighbor as yourself. This has always been the summary of the law, both in the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. But to the self-righteous, righteousness means following a plan written out, diagram, and a checkoff sheet. Are we better than the Pharisees? They seem to get such bad press. Not long ago, I spoke with a gentleman whose first question about the unknown quantity, the Episcopal Church, to him was, his question to me was, what is your doctrine? I always know where that question's leading. My answer was, the love of Jesus Christ for all. That is our doctrine. That wasn't good enough for my conversation partner. Way too vague. What he wanted to know, what steps we required, what hurdles do we require people to jump through? What is the picture of the righteous diagram of getting from point A to point B? And at some point in our conversation, we even talked about the moment of salvation. And of good works not getting us anywhere before we profess the name of Jesus Christ as Lord. He laid it all out in precision, all laid out as if it were a map to be followed, not a journey to be lived. Now, I did benefit from that conversation. And he was a very likable person. But at that point, I had an epiphany. Somewhat heretical epiphany. But I had an epiphany. Works, righteousness, and the profession of faith, I believe, are so knotted together that no mere mortal may say where one ends and one begins. Does that sort of make sense? Amen. I mean, my profession of faith may be a work that I'm doing that may lead me to Christ. I cannot believe that our journey with God only begins with the profession of faith. Nor can I believe that good works can't be the start of that journey toward God's call. The lost are found, and there is rejoicing. God searches and will not stop searching for those who are lost. And this is what I hear in today's gospel. Self-righteousness and following a formula based on merit, that is what God owes me because I've done this and I've done that, have no place in today's gospel. Are we better than the Pharisees? We sometimes speak as if we are. But Jesus was talking directly to us as well as the Pharisees with these two parables. Do we rejoice when seeing our neighbors being blessed, but are too blind to see our own blessings that God has given us? There's an old Jewish story, not necessarily told by old Jews, an old story that happens to be Jewish. Many of you may have heard it. In the story, God appeared to a certain farmer and granted him 3 wishes. Now this is a story. This is not a parable. You will not find this in the gospel. God appeared to a certain farmer and granted him 3 wishes. But with the condition that whatever God did for the farmer, it would be given double to his neighbor. The farmer, scarcely believing his good fortune, wished for 100 cattle. Immediately he received 100 cattle and was overjoyed, until he saw that his neighbor had 200 cattle. So he wished for 100 acres of land. And again he was filled with joy, until he saw that his neighbor had 200 acres of land. Rather than celebrating God's goodness and his neighbor's blessings, the farmer could not escape feeling jealous and slighted because his neighbor had received more than he. Finally, the farmer stated his 3rd wish, that God would strike him blind in one eye. Are we ready to rejoice with heaven in finding the lost and inviting the outcasts? Those we would rather not be around, inviting them to the banquet? Are we ready to admit to our own self-righteous tendencies? Are our relationships with God and others based on merit? What they can do for me, or what they've done for me? Or are they based on mercy? Mercy given and mercy received. Luke invokes us, our self-righteous selves, to search diligently for that part of us, our righteous selves, that is lost. And Luke tells us that God will rejoice with us in finding it.